Welcome, Austin Knott, to the Writer with Purpose podcast. It's fabulous to have you here as a guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, Annis. It's great to be here.
You are
A new
more than welcome.
experience.
A new experience. Is this your first podcast interview?
It is.
I shall take it easy.
Thank you very much. I
Nothing to worry about.
feel
It's just an informal conversation. That's all that other people will hear. So, Austin, you're an associate at Peak Navigation Courses. You are a National Navigation Award Scheme course director. You also run Walk the Moorlands, which is a company that organises walks in and around Staffordshire Moorlands. And you also facilitate the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival that this year starts on the 25th of April to the Monday, the 5th of May, with some fringe events beforehand. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. But first, if I may, I would love to ask you if you could explain what a typical day looks like for you and how I suppose you came to do what you do today.
typical day for me. I'm retired really, so I should be being retired, but I'm still relatively active. So a typical outdoor day, it depends on what I'm doing. And as you suggested, there are quite a few different strings to my bow, but it's almost one-dimensional in that it all involves the outdoors and walking. So Walk the Moorlands is really a brand we adopted to facilitate walks within Staffordshire Moorlands for primarily for the leisure centres and the various people who run the leisure centres, which is now my active.
Right.
The Staffordshire Moorlands District Council used to have quite a wide and extensive leisure programme, which just wasn't just walking, but that's all the remnants of that programme, which might have included hedge laying, stonewalling, all sorts of other outdoor events. The remnant of that program now is the walks that we put on behalf of My Active. So that's
Ah,
one element. We're active all year round. Traditionally we have a walk on the third Sunday of the month, which tends to be a long walk. I'll say it's 8 miles. It can be anything between 7 to 12 miles, but on average about 8 miles. There's the last Sunday of the month typically is the Sunday Saunter, which is normally run by a lady called Liz, who used to be a tourism officer in Moorlands, so she knows everywhere and knows everything. Well, that's what I believe. But her walks are no more than 6 kilometres, and they're always enchanting. And then because people said, "Do you walk on any other days but Sunday?" Well, we do. But we weren't doing in the program, so we put on just random other days to see, really just testing the water to see what demand there is. But things explode within the walking festival. So when I'm not walking in the moorlands, I tend to be freelancing for other people. So you mentioned Peak Navigation Courses. They're a small company that run in the Peak District, hence the name, and they've probably been going about 20 years. I met Mike and Jane, who run the company, probably 12, 15 years ago in something called the Peak District Walking Festival. Stayed in touch with them. I went on some of their courses. I went on some of their walks. Um, I had a fairly long career in local government. Professionally, if that might be too grand a word, I was a transport planner, but had opportunity to escape that in 2018. And I got a crazy idea that I would offer people walks, probably across the Peak District, not just the Staffordshire Moorlands, and people would pay me to come on those walks. So that was the concept.
yeah.
It didn't quite turn out like that. A lot of the people who I'd met on the journey to becoming a Hill and Moorland leader, once I'd qualified, and I did that within a month of finishing a desk job, said, "Oh, you could come and work with us. You could come and do this, could come and do that." So I went and worked on a charity event up in the Lake District, had a great day, met some great people, but also met some other great outdoor leaders. So I turned up, had a great day, submitted an invoice and got paid, and thought, well, this is actually quite good. I could just freelance rather than, other people do the hard work. I just turn up and do the enjoyable bit.
Yeah.
And that's really where I've gone. So freelancing out in the outdoors. Um, which sort of takes me away from what I was talking about, Mike and Jane. So I met them in the Peak District Walking Festival. Had this idea that I was going to, yeah, work in the outdoors. In that first year of retirement, I was doing quite a bit of my own stuff. I was working for other people. I was posting stuff on social media, perhaps more actively than I do now. Mike and Jane saw that and said, "What's going on? You don't appear to have time to go to work." And I said, "I don't. I'm retired. I'm just doing stuff in the outdoors." They were very kind, and it was a great leap of faith on their part to offer me some work as a navigation, map reading and navigation instructor.
Yeah.
So I started that in 2019, and I've never really looked back. So a lot of my work is for Mike and Jane, and another of my good outdoor friends, a lady called Linda Moran. She and I share the work. So we're doing navigation courses from beginner through to people who are working towards becoming mountain leaders. So we're doing beginners courses and anything intermediate up to, yeah, probably some confidence boosting for people who are going to assessment to become a mountain leader or one of the other walk leader awards that are available in this country.
It sounds amazing because you just get to go outside and you see all of those views and you get all of the benefits of the movement, but also being in nature
You
any
do.
day that you want to. I did a navigation course September on mountain skills in the Lake District. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was amazing. I had to get, the equipment,
Yes.
the compass and the map and all of the waterproof stuff and navigate for a period of time with the rest of the group. And we had the theory side as well so that we knew what we were looking for. And actually if you just observe things, once you know what you're looking for and the steps, you can't really get lost, can you? Because you can always find where you are based on whether you've got the map or whether you've got the viewpoints around you and you know which direction you're looking or you need to go. There's always a way that you can find where you are and where you need to go.
There is. You're sort of describing puzzle solving in a 3D environment, aren't you, in the great outdoors?
Yeah, I
So,
guess that's a good
yeah,
way of, yeah, good metaphor for it.
our courses sort of give, as you describe it, give people the building blocks, a navigational toolbox we like to describe it of. So different tools for different circumstances. It's knowing how to use those tools and which tools to combine to be able to navigate around the real world using a map. And as you say, observing, lifting your head out of a map and looking around and see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, getting to grips with the topography, seeing where the boundaries are, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I've not done enough of it. I think, you have to keep up skills, otherwise I think you lose them.
You do. You need to keep practicing, and
Yeah.
things become more natural when you practice. It just happens eventually,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, well, I totally agree because the first day, I was still quite confused, and then the second morning, it did just seem to click at one point, and I
Yeah.
knew what I was looking at, and I could work the map with the compass, and I could do the measurements and the ratios, and it just seemed to click that I knew what I was looking for. Yeah, but have you noticed, because you've been doing that for quite some time now, I am of the perception that that is becoming more popular, that people want to just go out and spend a day on a walk somewhere just to get away from their four walls and relax a little bit. And whether it is that they want to do the navigation training side or whether it is that they just want to go out on the walk, you think that's grown in popularity?
Uh, it certainly has. There are some places that are very popular. People gravitate towards. Moorlands walks are always very popular. They always fill up. The navigation courses, learning skills, that seems to be quite popular, and people gifting skills courses. The outdoors does seem to be very, very popular, whatever you're doing, and quite a range of ages enjoying the great outdoors, and quite a few different cultures and communities, yeah, outside, which is great.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see that diversity in age and culture, and it is good to see that. And I think the message is getting out there. Health benefits of just being outside and moving are second to none. So what's your earliest memory of nature, Austin? You got something that you kind of think back on?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I'm going to have to cast my mind back a long way if it's the earliest memory. Uh, I I'm not a native of Staffordshire or Staffordshire Moorlands. I was born down in East Kent on the coastline at a place called Deal, so basically on the Straits of Dover. And I guess my earliest memories would be, particularly on a warm summer's day, being taken walking down to the beach, the shingle beach at Warmer, which was about supposed to be about a mile away. May not. It seemed a long way when you were quite young and being
Yeah.
taken there. And the beach is quite wide there. It's difficult to walk on, particularly in bare feet. But yeah, exploring the beach and swimming in the sea are sort of some of the earlier memories I've got of the outdoors. And then as you become perhaps slightly independent of your parents, you perhaps get a bike and are allowed out to go and explore. There was an area not too far away, again near Warmer, right by Warmer Castle, which is one of the castles on the coast down there. I knew it as the Glen, but I think its official title is Hawk Hill Free Down, and
Oh.
I would say it's a small chalk, like a Scottish Glen, but on a very small version and made out of chalk rather than granite. That was always a very exciting place. It seemed a very exciting and big place to go and explore.
Mm.
What appeared to be a large grass down, and this wooded valley with what seemed to be a very steep chalk footpath. Going back as an adult, it seems to be quite flat, but I suppose when you were knee high to a grasshopper, it seemed quite big. The whole area seemed quite big, but nowadays when I go back and have a look at it, it's not as grand as I remember. But I do remember having sort of lots of fun there, exploring, playing games with friends, climbing trees, all those sort of things that kids, well, I think still get up to. I'm sure some still do, but pre kind of electronic game days, that's the sort of stuff we got up to.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody on another episode. She does forest school, and she was saying how the dirtier, the muddier the kids can get, the better, because it shows that they've had a lot of fun and it's getting them away from those inside activities that they tend to do more of
Yeah.
these days. It's having that sense of getting back to where we came from. There's so much that you can do outside. You don't really need anything with you. You can climb the trees, as you say, you can notice certain things, you can just lie in the grass, there's go in the sea, there's all sorts of things that you can do that you don't
Mm.
actually need to take anything with you. Have you got a preference with with growing up near the coast and then now living more in hills and woodland? Have you got a preference, one or the other?
Yeah, I'm also probably as far away from the sea as I can get in this country now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like the hills. As I said, everything seemed to be quite big when you were young, and we lived on my parents' house was on the top of a hill, but it's not a great altitude. You didn't have to go very far within Staffordshire Moorlands to get out into some great landscapes, and as you mentioned, topography, with some beautiful landscape views. And we're lucky where we live. We've got a great variety, although no seaside, but we do have bits of water around, don't we? Like some of the reservoirs and
Yeah, we've got Tittersworth Reservoir, Rudyard Lake. Yeah,
um,
there is
Cypress
water
Pool.
if we want it.
Yeah.
Knipersley, yes, it's nice around there. So, have you got any tips for people that want to try and invite more nature into their life, get out there, and what would you recommend?
I would say, but just go and try it. It might seem quite daunting, but often there's perhaps parks on your doorstep or quite nearby. There are lots of, if you fancy going for a walk, you could go and try and go in on your own. But there are lots of walking groups around. You could go and try one of those to see if something um, takes your fancy. People don't get offended if you go along to a group and then go and change to another one as trying to find the space that you're comfortable in.
Hmm.
Um, Often we have space just outside our front doors, and it might be something as simple as going outside and sitting and perhaps listening to some birds. There are some really, you might wonder what that bird is. There's some really good apps nowadays. The Merlin app I quite like using to try and identify bird song. It's not one of my strengths, but when you've got some support and advice, it's going out and trying things.
Yeah, just stepping outside the front door and seeing where it leads you to.
But if you get outdoors, particularly at the moment, there's lots happening. There's lots of things to go out and notice. Lots of
Yeah.
glimmers of colour and excitement going on as spring, springs into life, isn't it?
It does, and we're recording this on the spring equinox, so the
We are.
official day of springtime, and yeah, you can see things blooming everywhere as the seasons change. I still think that it's a little bit, the fluctuating temperatures that we have at the moment, I still think is not really right for this time of year, but it is nice to have the warmer weather. And I got a t-shirt on today.
It's nice to feel some warmth from the sun on our skins. The last couple of days, I've been out in the Peak District helping three walk leaders with their navigation. They were doing the gold level of the National Navigation Awards scheme, so the top level that's offered. And they needed that level to be able to lead walks in mountain environments for their walking club. They often go over to North Wales. But on Tuesday, we walked out of Edale up onto Kinder Scout. It was a lovely clear day. We're up there when it was going dark, but it was quite cool. And then yesterday we were nearby to Edale around an area called Brown Knoll. Again, quite a cold start, but you noticed in the afternoon, unlike the previous day, it did warm up, and it was a case of peeling layers off as the afternoon went on. We've not had much rain recently,
No,
and the peat on Kinder Scout was very dry. So it
really.
did mean we could yomp over some moorland that we perhaps wouldn't do at this time of year, going looking for those exciting things like re-entrance. You might remember that word from your course.
Re-entrance.
Yeah.
What does re-entrance mean? Might have
It's like a little,
forgotten.
sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you. You're
It's
not embarrassed, I
okay.
can tell. No, it would be the question I would have asked, what's a re-entrance? A re-entrance are like a little valley. So if you look at your maps and you never remember what contours are like, it's where the little orange line on the map re-enters into the hill. So it enters into the
Ah,
hill. So it's like a little nick in the contour or in the
mm.
landscape. So that's a re-entrance. So on navigation courses, you go to find them because it shows how observant you are and you can display your skills. That's good, isn't it? So it's quite an adventure. So you on access land where for much of the year we'll have the right to roam. So
Yes.
yeah, so it comes out of the 2005 to 2006 Countryside and Rights of Way Act,
Okay,
where
so it's
yeah, 8%
yeah.
of England and Wales was opened up to the right to roam. So we can go and particularly around here, we can explore some exciting moorland around the Roaches and Axe Edge.
Because there's a much bigger proportion in Scotland, isn't there? It's the
Yes,
majority of their just the right to roam.
they've got a different legislation governing how they can access the outdoors.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than when you're on OS Maps or another app to plot a route, and you come to a point where somebody, landowner, farmer, whoever it might be, has either diverted it or just completely blocked it off, and then you don't really know where to go, and are you actually trespassing somewhere or
Yeah,
but you can report that, can't you? Am I right in
you
thinking?
you can. Well, hopefully with your new skills, you'll know where you are, so that's okay. And once you know where you are, you can, and you think that you have a rite of passage over a right of way or onto access land. If things have been blocked or obstructed, most highway authorities, which is your local thrust, our county council, Staffordshire County Council, they on their website they have a portal where you can report issues with perhaps obstruction, or if some of the infrastructure like stiles or signs are missing, you can report those issues. When
Mm,
I've spoken to the rights of way officers, they always like to know where there are issues and problems so that they can try to address them. If they don't know that there are issues, they can't address them. So it's always
yeah.
worth reporting.
Yeah, and I've been in many places where it's been diverted and it's clearly posted, and it's usually to keep you out of a field where there's livestock, and you know, that's safety for both, you know, both the people walking and the livestock, so you can understand that. So if we talk a little bit about the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival then, so when did that come to life and how did that come to life?
There is a little bit of history. We restarted in, I'm going to have to count back, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, we started back in 2022. But some of our walk leaders used to work for Staffordshire Moorlands Council. And when we were talking as leaders, the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival came up. It ran, I think it was in the early 2000s. It ran for 2 or 3 years and then was subsumed into the Peak District Walking Festival. I think they saw what a success the Moorlands Festival was, and it got widened across the whole of the Peak District, including Staffordshire Moorlands. That ran as the Peak District Walking Festival until 2014. The National Park then had ideas about supporting cyclists and thought they'd done as much as they could for walking. And in 2014, I don't want to mention the A word, austerity was well and truly entrenched. So choices had to be made. So they focused on cycling, a couple of cycling festivals around that time. So the walking festival itself lapsed, and then when COVID hit, and you had those crazy conversations about when we're allowed out, what could we do? So it became a conversation. Once we get let out, we could perhaps do a walking festival in Staffordshire Moorlands. I had an idea it might just be a weekend. So up until COVID, for a lot of people who are working in the outdoors, the outdoor season ran from Easter to perhaps October half term. Unless you were doing winter skills or winter mountaineering courses, you didn't work over the winter. So some people in that downtime before they went off to do the Christmas rush on the post or working in a factory or something like that, I was aware of some friends who were running small festivals elsewhere in the country, in Snowdonia and one up in Scotland. And that's all it was. It was a walking and climbing festival over a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I thought that'd be a good idea. We could do that in the Moorlands. And John and Liz and some of the other leaders, yeah, we could do that. So eventually we got around to it in 2022, and we chose the same calendar slot as the Peak District Walking Festival. That used to be about a 3-week festival from the end of April through into May. We thought, well, we could just do the first part of it because there was a natural gap in there are lots of walking festivals going on across the country. We thought there was a little gap there locally. We could just fill that slot. We made the decision quite late to run a walking festival in 2022, and fortunately, the district council's tourism officers were having a similar idea. So we worked together with them. How can we get a walking festival up running quite quickly? And if we look around us, there are lots of people already walking. And some of the clubs at that time, particularly the traditional types of clubs, your U3As and Ramblers, were still struggling to draw back their own members. And we thought, well, it might be a way of them attracting some new members or encouraging people to come out. So we basically contacted people we knew who used to do stuff or were trying to do stuff and said, well, you're trying to lead walks or you're putting on walks, we could rebrand them in this time slot as the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival. So rather than it being a weekend, all of a sudden it became 11 days.
Yeah.
And we were able to put on 40 events in the first year.
Wow.
It was well received. And then we repeated it the second year in 2023. Again, a similar size festival, around 40 odd events. About 600 people came along on those events, which is good to see people getting out. And each year we look at the festival and think, what can we do well? So the people we know, we were able to contact, but there's a wider community out there than just other ramblers or hikers. We weren't very good at putting family events on, so that's became an aspiration. In 2023, there were Moorlands Council and the County Council had access to some levelling up monies. So they were able to promote the festival more, so through advertising. And we were able to put on a few more events, looking at some of the gaps. So I think it was 50 events last year, probably about 30 organisations involved in, and there were over 900 people came. So it's quite a big, 50% increase in footfall. This year, the levelling up monies aren't available, but we've still got some great support from our colleagues at Staffordshire Moorlands District Council, a lot of support from them. And sometimes it's great to have moral support, knowing there's someone behind you cheering you on and being able to help lubricate small items. You know, we can buy you some leaflets, we can get you some badges, we can get you some banners, we can support your, you know, some social media output. So Staffordshire Moorlands and Visit staffs have been very good in doing that. We've been able to bring to get some other people involved. So I was talking about gaps with families and children. This year we've got an organisation called Blaze Trails. CIC are involved. They basically do walks for young families, parents with children in arms or just toddling.
Yes, I've seen those on the site. I wondered what that meant. Yeah.
Well, when they appeared on Women's Hour on New Year's Day, a local group down in Stone. So one of our other volunteers, Tina, got in touch with their regional coordinator, who's been an absolute whirlwind of support for us. We had a conversation, and at the end of the conversation, I said, "Would you be able to put on a Walk in the Walking Festival under the Blaze Trail banner?" And she said, "One walk? I think I'll be able to get a walk on every day," which was wow. Coriano, who is the coordinator, has been good to her word. There may not be a walk every day, but there's some days where there were 2 walks, and they are walking most days. So that's going to be a real uplift. And some of the other organisations that we've worked with in the past, for example, Staffordshire Wildlife. This year, I think we've got 3 ranger walks, but we've also starting to work with a lady called Louise Taylor, who's putting on one of their children's events for us. So it's starting to spread, and we're getting some other, younger people hopefully involved in the festival. So we're starting to fulfill that ambition of getting younger people involved, which is good.
Yeah. A real range there for all different families and age groups.
There are some things that we would like to still improve. So we would like to see different communities being, well, us looking after them really, or being able to facilitate their events. Just trying to think, Staffordshire CPRE are putting on an event for the blind this year, a walk from Hetties up to the Black Line at Consul and back. Outside Arts, who have been a breath of fresh air with the festival over the last couple of years, are helping to put on, they're bringing back the Signs of the Moorlands walk, which this year is down at Dimmonsdale. So there's a walk open to the public in the morning where you learn some sign language, and in the afternoon the walks, particularly for the signing community. There are walks where people can attend in wheelchairs and in pushchairs, but the wheelchair type community is one we're trying to get involved with and find someone who can help facilitate events like that. It's not within our skill set, and we've tried to contact people, but we've not been successful so far. But it is an ambition to look after more communities.
Yeah, just make it more accessible for people, whether they've got mobility issues, disability issues, but yeah, because walking or at least being outside on a trail, whether you're walking or you're in a wheelchair or you're being pushed or whatever that might look like, is something for everybody to enjoy and gain benefits out of. So it sounds as though year on year it's growing, and with the numbers and sessions, but also with the different communities and the different populations. Yes,
it is. There are events that you'll be able to access in a wheelchair at the moment, but we're talking to other groups and communities. It's not going to come off this year, but certainly for 2026 we might have be working with some. There's an organisation called Mosaic, who look after different cultures and different communities across the Peak District. So we're hoping to get involved with them. We've had some productive conversations. We've got a similar organisation called Mind Over Mountains. They're a national mental health charity, and they're on board this year. There's a walk on the first Saturday of the festival, the 26th.
Yeah, they have professionally trained coaches, counsellors, don't they, on their walks? Yeah, right. We raised money for them when we did the Mount Kilimanjaro trek
Brilliant.
that
Well
was who we
done.
raised money for, because it just kind of aligned with where we were going with that. But yeah, they're a great charity.
They are. They give a space and an opportunity for people to get out and express how they're feeling. I've helped with a few of the walks, and they're joyful events.
Yeah,
There may be
yeah.
sadness within them, but they are always, or yeah, they are joyful. Coaches there who people can talk with, and they'll ask the right questions, so conversations flow naturally.
So if someone was interested and they wanted to have a look and see what was going on and access the events, what would be their next steps?
I would ask them to look at the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival site. If you use a search engine and put Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival, the website will come up. It's basically a calendar of events. So you'll see the various dates for the festival. And if you click on one of those dates, the events on that day will come up. So look at the website. We've got some social media presence. So one of our volunteers has this year taken up the mantle of looking after our social media, which is it's a lady called Steph, and she's doing a fantastic job for us. So we're on Facebook and Instagram. Look for Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival. It'll pop up.
Yeah, I can share the links in the show notes for the website and the social media presence. And then you've also got some links on the website to discover Staffordshire Moorlands as well, and some of the other supporting sites for
And if
people to have a
you're
little bit
looking
more
at it,
information.
yeah, you'll discover that most of the events are free, and if they're not free, they're low cost. They're not particularly expensive, and that's a handful of events within. It looks like we're going to have about 70 events on. I'm now talking about events because it's not purely just walks. So there are some things. So we're going to see you in the festival, aren't we, Anna? Doing something.
Yep.
It'll be walking, but something slightly different to just going for a walk. And as well as just walking, we're trying to put some on. I'll call them fringe events, but that's perhaps a bit glamorous. But we've got other people coming along. So this is our work with outside arts, that Staffordshire Moorlands based organisation who are facilitating a lot for us this year. Stuart McConey, who's a broadcaster and has a great interest in the outdoors. He's a journalist, an author. Is coming to the Foxlow on the evening of the 3rd. There are some films going on at various village halls and places across the Moorlands. So there's some outreach work there. We're doing quite a lot of work with Flash Village Hall, who are very good at facilitating things and making life easy for us as volunteers. We're hoping that there's going to be a folklore talk up there, probably on the 2nd of May, and a botany talk by a Staffordshire Moorlands based botanist, a lady called Penny Anderson, who, if you again look online for a botany book called The Peak District, it has her name on it, and it's a beautiful book with some beautiful drawings and an explanation of what you're looking at. So we're hoping she's going to talk about grassland, but it could be anything to do with botany. And again, Flash Village Hall on, I think that's the 26th of April. So about
Yeah.
the time this goes out, look out for spaces on that. There'll be a small charge probably.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how the festival has grown from people's ideas and the demand from people that have attended before.
Yeah.
I mean, the botany that could be multiple days, couldn't it? Just focusing on something different within that field.
So two of these points, we've got the highest point, Cheeks Hill, the second highest point, Oliver Hill, and the third highest point in the county is the Roaches, which many people will know, the trig point up there. And we put all those together and make a great walk out of it. And we call it the Staff's Three Peaks.
Yeah,
So
fantastic. And is that on
that's
one of the days?
it is. It's on the Bank Holiday Monday, the last day of the festival. It's sort of our traditional close is to have the Staff's Three Peaks Challenge. And
Yeah.
this morning I've had an email from someone in Essex who's looking to get 3 places on that challenge, and they're looking to come up and stay and take part in the festival, which is
Oh, wow.
great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's quite far for somebody to come. So, and I think it's great because it's you're catering for people that really do love the great outdoors and can make a holiday out of it
Mm.
almost and be able to go to
Yep.
something several days, or you're catering for the families that may be a little bit stretched with time because of other commitments, or professionals who are working for a lot of the time during the week. So then they can go for things because you've got evening events as well as weekend events and weekdays. So there's something for everybody at any day and any time during that. I was going to say 2 weeks, but you've got the fringe
Yep.
events as well. So it's quite a lot longer than 2 weeks.
Yes, a lady called Debbie Potts and her husband are going to do some short architectural trails around Leek Town Centre.
Hmm.
So the walks will be about an hour. You won't be going too far, but you can book onto those, or hopefully there might be a few spaces available on the day as well. Look out for the history trail around Leek on the 2nd of May.
Yeah, I like things like that. So me and my partner, if we ever go anywhere for a weekend, we usually try and book on one of these walking tours. We usually find that the ghost tours are quite interesting because you've got the storytelling aspect of it, but also they throw in a lot of the history of the
Yes.
area, which you always pick up on some information, and it's a good way to gain knowledge about an area so that you know where you want to then go back to visit.
I can imagine Debbie being excellent at taking people around, and it's looking at the architecture. She's taken, with their permission, I forget who the gentleman was, some, what I think they were called raised rambles, some of those, and developed it into a Google Maps based walk. So this is bringing
Ah,
that electronic version to life. So someone will be
yeah.
there telling it rather than looking at a device and reading it. So they're going to be good.
Yeah, fantastic. It sounds amazing, and yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it. So my walk is going to be on the 2nd of May, and it's going to be more of a journaling walk. So people will
Mm.
be able to hopefully get some books, some journals where they come along, and we'll have some nature journaling, some prompts, and make it relevant to help people to notice what's around them and ignite the senses a little bit more. So. Um, yeah. So what's next for you after the festival?
Probably time for a rest.
Well, I
Oh,
can include the link as well for Walk the Moorlands, because I think you've got a Facebook presence, have you, for Walk the Moorlands?
yes, there is. So that there's information there, and it also gets to be put on the Staffordshire Moorlands District Council's website. So
Yeah.
I think they label them as healthy walks, which they are already because we're getting out and walking and talking and having a look at what's around us. So
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much more of that now, even in the business world. You've got the networks, Fox Networking, they are doing a net walk, aren't they? As
They
well,
are.
where people would normally go inside and sit down and have a business meeting and share what they're looking for and what they're all about. But now they're going to be doing that on a
Yeah.
walk, to tie in with the festival, which is great.
The net walking as we become for that day, those walks have been really well received in the past. Perhaps we'll do more just than just in the walking festival. We could do some more net walking with more
Yeah.
glamour. Mm.
Yeah, there's no reason why that can't be a regular thing once a month, weather permitting.
Yep.
Because yeah, I think there's probably it'll be a different type of person that would want to go on those walks. There'll be a bit of crossover, but they'll also attract some new people, which will be great. So yeah, I guess if I could maybe just finish on asking you what you love most about Staffordshire Moorlands and maybe what your biggest impact that nature has given to you or shared with you, then how would you respond to that?
I'm going to sit on the fence really with the answer. The we probably touched on previously in another answer that there's quite a diversity in landscapes across the Staffordshire Moorlands.
Yeah.
So I live down in the southern end, and I cheekily call it the prairies because it's quite flat and there are lots of open pasture fields. But you can go from the southern Staffordshire Moorlands area up into those rocky, craggy outcrops around the Roaches and Ramshaw rocks, and out onto some open moorland. And in between all of that, we've got some fantastic, the main three towns and some fantastic little villages and lots of good places to go and enjoy. So lots of lovely cafes. So there's something for everything in the Moorlands, isn't there? It's a nice place to live, and people tend to be quite welcoming. So it's
Mm.
yeah, it's a great place to live. What was the other part of the question? I've forgotten. I'm rambling.
What's been the most significant impact that nature has provided for you or to you?
I think it's probably just being able to get outdoors. So getting away from a desk job, although I was walking before I left work. Just being able to get out and go for some great walks. I know I can go from the doorstep and soon be enjoying some great views, perhaps across the Weaver Hills or wherever it might be. I can get away from things, and you can go for a solo walk. You can go for a walk with a friend. You can go walks with groups. I think it's the Moorlands. Again, I'm not giving you a particularly direct answer, but I just like being able to get outdoors.
Yeah.
So I haven't got one real thing. When I am pressed for things, I always say in the White Peak, my favourite place is just outside of the Moorlands in the White Peak, and that's Croom Hill and Park House. I just like that dramatic sort of limestone reef type landscape. And yeah, the Roaches, if you're into Gritstone, I like going up to the Roaches. And even though it gets busy at weekends, it doesn't take far. You don't have to go very far away from the beaten track to get away from things if you want a bit of solitude.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it is lovely around there. You've got Lud's Church and Gradbach, and those sort of places are quite mystical, I find. But you said something before about White Peak, and it's those dramatic landscapes and that which almost give us a sense of awe. We're out there in the fresh air and the expansiveness of it all, which is good. But I think we can look at some of these landscapes and think, wow, that's impressive how that's formed, what's there. And you can just really appreciate it for the beautiful elements of nature that you see.
And then you start to ask the questions, why is it like that? And then you get drawn down the rabbit hole of geology. And so, for an inquisitive mind, there's always something to draw you to. Across the moorlands, there's lots of folklore and legend, which you can, again, is a rabbit hole to get drawn down, but also makes a good background for telling stories as you do certain walks. There's always something to interest you in there.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of religious links to Lud's Church, I think, isn't there, from memory? I do remember writing an article for somebody with the Peak District website about 4 years ago about that, and I was amazed because I didn't know all of that history to the area. But I must admit, when I go there, there's almost an energy to the place. Take that as you will. But there's definitely something going on there.
Lud's Church is definitely quite mystical, isn't it? So you go in there and it seems to have a very calm aura. Always seems to be quite quiet, even when there are other people in there.
Yeah.
Perhaps the acoustics and it's slightly cooler, and you've got all that green colour, and when you look at it, certain faces appearing out of the rocks if you've got a good imagination.
Yeah, and I have, yes, my mind starts to wonder about what was once there and what could potentially be there. So it's been great to talk to you, Austin, this morning and learn more about what it is that you do, more about the Staffordshire Moorlands Walking Festival. And as I say, I'll share all of those links in the show notes so people can find out more and connect with you. And pop along.
Lovely. Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.